Welcome to the NoSpoon podcast. Here are your hosts, John and Dale.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for checking out the NoSpoon podcast. Today, we've got an exciting show lined up for you guys. We're going to be hearing from John about some of the culture battles that have been going on in the news lately. So,
this is something that's a little bit more in my wheelhouse, and just wanted to touch base and show you some of the culture stuff that's happening right now. I wanted to start off today with a video. I wanted to get your...
I think there's some sentiment that there's some sort of moral victory out there that we hung with the champs and that our defense played well. Pat didn't have a crazy game, and Mr. Pfizer, we kind of shut him down a little bit. He didn't have, his crazy impact game. Obviously, he had, some yards and stuff, but I felt like for the most part, we played really tough on defense, especially the last three quarters, and that was important for us. Offensively, we got some ways to go. But I felt like we showed a lot of improvement, but we got to keep sticking together. And
number 5 overall.
yeah, first of all, I love their reaction on that show to him calling what's that guy's? I don't even know his name, but
yeah, so that's
Mr.
Pat
Pfizer.
McAfee. He used to be a kicker in the league, and now he ran a show that got really popular on YouTube, but just recently got bought by ESPN. So he's actually on Disney ESPN network while this stuff's going out.
Okay. So that's on Disney.
Yeah, that's on Disney with Aaron Rodgers calling Kelce their Mr. Pfizer because he's been doing some commercials and stuff for Pfizer. So that's why he nicknamed him there.
Yeah, I love the meme that I shared on my Gab account where it's a picture of him with he's dating Taylor Swift, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so he's a picture with him and Taylor Swift, and then it's a picture of him getting the jab, and it says either way, this dude's getting his heart broke.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then another clip from him on the same show there.
We got a guy that Aaron does things his own way,
You're right. Look at his Achilles, right? Look at that's what you're talking about. This guy does stuff his own way. He actually defies science. This guy right here, right now. That's what they're saying about you. Shannon Sharp said this morning.
if like we learned, if science is Dr. Fauci, you're damn right I'm defying science.
Okay, that's on me.
Got him. You let him right into that.
Yeah, Fauci's just sitting at home reminiscing about his terrible opening pitch. Mm-hmm. And he's like, it's Tuesday again? Great. Everybody's going to be reminded.
Yeah, which if anybody saw that, the opening pitch that Fauci threw was absolutely
horrendous.
It was one of the worst things I've seen.
Yeah, thank goodness they think he's smart because he's definitely not that athletic.
Yeah, well, he straight out said, Dr. Fauci said that those who criticize him were just criticizing science or something. That's paraphrased, but something
science
along those lines, because he is the science, we all know. So anything Dr. Fauci says, we have to just accept as the science and the facts, and you can't question any of it.
Yep. And then another thing touching upon Disney here, I just wanted to go over this with you. I'm not sure if you've gone to the movies here recently at all. No, not really.
No.
Okay, so this is Disney's box office performances for the movies that have come out so far in 2023. And I mean, I don't know if you know the sales numbers that were happening when Endgame and all those movies are coming out. They're breaking the billion mark.
Right.
And their top grossing one here is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Which, I don't know if you know this, but it's the last Guardians of the Galaxy because James Gunn got hired to work over with WB for DC. He's doing DC over there. So he is literally gone from Marvel. So they've lost Gunn. So their top selling movie of the entire year, it's done. Guardians is no more. And then, just go down the list. These have all been absolutely demolished in the media. Little Mermaid, I don't think we have to talk much about that. Ant-Man and the Wasp was just terrible. The things that they're doing to the characters, and this was supposed to be the start of Wave 4, so this was supposed to be the kickoff to the brand new events that we're starting, and it is just terrible. And then they have got a couple more Animated shows here, Haunted Mansion. I mean, that's a redo. And then the Black Panther, the first one without Chadwick, rest in peace. He was a great Black Panther. So that one I don't necessarily blame as much on Disney just because they lost the face of the franchise for Black Panther. But they did try to go woke on it. It was like more like his sister's now in charge, and it went super woke. So yeah,
that's basically.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's basically kind of how I lost touch with all that. Like I saw, the first couple of Thor movies, obviously, the whole Marvel universe, like when they first started making those movies with Captain America, Iron Man. Yeah, I love those movies, and the reason why was because they were superhero movies that were about superheroes, and there wasn't this like woke agenda that was being shoved down your throat. And then recently, I mean, especially in the past couple of years, they've just been. I mean, it's like the actual scenes in the movie are like a background thought to whoever's directing these movies. And now
I don't even know if they even have like. Sometimes they don't even have a thread connecting at the beginning of the end. It's just like, here's really cool CGI and graphics and stuff. And don't get me wrong, those can add a lot to a movie. But if you don't have like a storyline or character arcs or a payoff at the end, something that gets me invested, I don't care. Like, it can look as cool as you want it to, but I can go watch another really cool show with a good storyline that's trying to teach me something awesome. Why would I watch just cool when there's nothing deeper?
Right. And I know a lot of the people that are going to see these movies are huge fans from like the comics going way back. And so to a certain point, you kind of have to stay true to the storyline. Obviously every director is going to want to make it like put their own spin on it. But, making these characters different genders, different races, different everything about it is different. It's like, well, why not just make a different movie? Why not just make a different superhero? If you want to,
well, that's what everyone wants, man. I feel like this is one of the things that when people bring this up, a lot of people hate on people who talk about this, and it's like, oh man, you're just a racist and things like that. And it's like, no, I really, really like the black characters. I just want them to have their own characters and not take legacy characters and just turn them black because you need cool black characters. It's like, I love Black Panther. I think it's an awesome story. There's so many different comic book characters of different races that are already created that are phenomenal. And instead of just like stealing a storyline and giving it to another race or different gender or things like that, just create new characters. And that's the problem, is that they don't have the intellectual, they don't have the gift to create these brand new IPs and make them interesting enough to gain their own viewership. They literally need to try to steal fandom, replace it with something stupid, and hope people just stick around.
It's almost insulting to completely change the way a story has always been kind of told in the hopes of bringing focus to like equality or these things, when, like you said, you could just be a creative writer and you could. I mean, every story has a beginning, right? So if you think that there should be this type of a character, a female character, or a trans-binary, this, that, or whatever, then just make one. Don't turn Spider-Man into that.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
That's not what Spider-Man is, right?
And so this actually, what you just said, rolls perfectly into this next topic here. I just want you to compare and contrast these two. So this is going to be Disney's remake, and I don't even know if you'd be able to tell what it was.
What is that? Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, it's literally Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. But I don't know if they're calling it that anymore. I think these are magical creatures. The 7 magical creatures, not dwarves anymore. There's obviously one dwarf there, but it's now like a collective of different random creatures.
Well, we call them little people now, right? I mean, that's.
I don't know. I'm not certain what the term that they use.
Nobody knows. It changes from day to day.
Yeah, it is one of the ones that change quite frequently, and I don't keep up on words. And then, so I want you to compare and contrast this to The Daily Wire is
Nice.
This is from Deadline. Daily Wire's making a live action Snow White starring conservative YouTuber Brett Cooper.
Nice.
And I mean,
Yeah, you can.
This
just,
is basically.
see...
I don't know if there's been any other besides this opening trailer. I don't know how many of the characters have actually been shown, but I don't even know if you need to see more than just this one picture teaser trailer to be like, oh, I think they're gonna follow the roots of the story pretty well from the looks of this.
Well, and you can compare and contrast those two images that you just showed me and be like, which one of these looks like it's going to be more interesting, right? Yeah. I think we can all agree that the Daily Wire, and the thing of it is the Daily Wire is an outspoken conservative, right, leaning publication, but they're starting to do culture things and they're starting to make movies.
I'm really excited.
I can almost guarantee you that they're not going to have this conservative agenda where they're preaching these moral. They want to make a good movie and they want to make money. So they're just going to stick to what works, which is a good plot, a story that's been told for how long, how long has Snow White been around? Yeah. It's obviously a very popular, right? So they're going to stick with that. They're just going to stick to what works, right? They're not going to throw in their agendas, these things like, we want you to believe this from this movie, we want you to believe that. They're just going to make a good movie.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, and that's what Disney could probably learn a little bit from.
Yeah, and that
just
this is one of the ones that they should be making a good movie out of. But from the current opening weekend estimates here, it's going to be 50% lower than Captain Marvel, which is the first one. They're calling it the Marvels because they already knew back in the day they shouldn't call it Captain Marvel 2 because this isn't a really liked, beloved character. And the reason it's 50% lower, and it'll probably be a little bit even higher percentage lower than that, is this was smashed right between two of the biggest movies, and they made it seem like this was a non-skippable event where you would miss out in Endgame if you hadn't seen this. So this got really lucky that people didn't really know how it would play out until after they had already bought their ticket and seen the movie. And it had basically no effect on Endgame. But yeah, so the trajectory that Disney is currently on, after I just showed you those box office and that list, they were like, a lot of them were not profitable. Like they're losing tons of money. And attendance at the parks is down. They're still going woke. I mean, this hasn't even come out yet. So like Disney, from its words, seems to keep saying that they need to course correct. But they just aren't course correcting. They keep pushing this woke garbage, and there is a hope of a reboot, a soft reboot at least, coming for the Marvel franchise with Secret Wars. So Secret Wars has like all these different timelines and stuff, and what they could do is they could get rid of all the woke stuff and just bring about the timelines where the normal stuff happened, and then continue on as if kind of the other movies that they've made were just silly, non-actual canonical timelines. So there's at least a little bit of hope, but they probably won't. It's Marvel.
Hopefully. I was going to say, I'll throw in like my little kind of conspiratorial political take on that. And that's it. These companies that are going woke and losing money, they're not stupid companies. They know that they're losing money. This all goes back, right, to BlackRock, to State Street, to Vanguard.
ESG.
You know why? Because the ESG scores, they know they're going to lose money now, but they're going to have access to more money in the future. And the companies that don't go woke, even though they're going to make more money, they might possibly not be allowed to have credit in the future, or as much credit, and they're going to get penalized for not doing these inclusive type of business moves. So that's kind of my take on why these companies are seemingly just hemorrhaging money and not caring. You see like Target and all these different companies that you would think like, man, who is in charge of this? Obviously this is not working, right? But there's a reason behind it, I think, and that's kind of where it comes from.
I think that they thought that there was going to be like you're saying, an interest rate trade-off or stuff like that. But I really believe that they didn't believe they were going to lose this much.
Yeah.
I really think
Well-
they're panicking. And we'll go deeper into that as these stories move along here. But yeah, I think they're all panicking and they're like, hey, we might have saved like 2% on our interest rate, but we're like, we might not be a company in a couple of years here if we don't get our crap straight. So I don't know if that equation or the math that they did quite worked out for them on the whole ESG thing.
Right.
And this leads more into the Captain Marvel. I just wanted to touch on this real quick. There are talks that we might be losing Brie Larson because of toxic fans. So that's a shame.
Shucks.
And I think that this probably will happen after the sales numbers for the Marvels comes out. And I just wanted to touch base on that real quick. And moving on to the next part here, that kind of is another kind of Disney thing. Graphic novel, like they count comic book sales and manga sales in kind of the same category there. And so they keep talking about, oh, comic book sales are up. But what they're not telling you is that every gain that comic books is having is 100% manga. Like, manga makes up, 79% of comic book and graphic novel sales in 2022. And they're like, oh, comic book sales are up 9%, they'll say. And what they mean is comic books and manga and graphic novels, because manga's counted as part of that graphic novel thing. So the percentage is basically all manga, and it just keeps going and up as more of these big anime kind of hit Netflix, get these live action remakes and stuff like that. So just like everything that is current, and that this kind of touches back on the Marvels movie, because what Marvel's currently doing is they started out at a very good place, like we were talking about with Iron Man and all those legacy stories. Well, what they've done now is they've skipped over so much of the good event timeline, and now they're up to current day. So the only stories that they really have to work with from like here on out are current comic books. And these current comic book sales are absolutely atrocious. And the only thing buoying any of it is manga. So like Disney's at such a place where they either need to reboot Marvel, sell it, or basically fire everyone and start from scratch. Like they're literally in dire straits right now, I believe.
Well, you reap what you sow, you know.
I
think I'm not as familiar with it as you are, but correct me if I'm wrong, but probably one of the big reasons that manga is performing a lot better is because it's a lot less about an agenda and going woke, and it's more about just good content and a good storyline, good plots, and all that. And so that's why it's performing better. Yeah,
don't get me wrong, it has some oddities to it, like Japanese interpersonal relationships can be a little bit different, so it can be a little what Americans would say is like cringy or awkward, but overall they're not trying to push anything. Like if it, there's a new one out called Chainsaw Man. It's literally this dude that can turn into a chainsaw and kills a whole bunch of stuff. Like there's nothing hidden in there behind it. It's just like action packed, like very cool graphical anime. So they're not, and it actually gets censored when it gets brought to the West. Like they will make girls less curvy. They'll change certain words. They'll do a whole bunch of stuff. Like there's a scene in I think it's Pokemon in the beginning where Brock's eating like a sushi roll or something like that, or a kimaguri or something, and they call it like ice cream or something like that because nobody would know what a rice ball was. Like he's eating ice cream and he's just like holding this white ball. Americans were like, what? Who eats ice cream like that? Yeah, so they do change a lot and add a little bit of agenda in it when it comes to the West, like such as slimming down girls and things like that. But yeah, basically they have not nearly as much of an agenda that they're pushing out as what these Western companies do.
Right. It turns out that when people are going to entertainment and want to escape the political news junkie world, they don't want to get that from their entertainment either.
Yep. And I see that is a trend that's going to continue. Manga's going to eat up all these sales, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and we'll start getting probably some American companies that are pushing out some webtoons, as we're seeing like Castlevania and stuff that Netflix is doing. We'll start getting some more Western-y type old school video games and stuff like that, anime here soon. But touching on the get woke go broke type thing here, I don't know if you've heard any of the stuff that's been going on with Victoria's Secret.
I'm not familiar.
He's not familiar at all. Well, they've been doing I
can't even find a mall.
Yeah,
it seems like malls aren't even a thing anymore.
Yeah,
so,
sadly. Thanks, Joe.
I can't even remember the last time I awkwardly walked by Victoria's Secret store.
Tried not to see the ads, like, oh.
Right.
But yeah, they've done a whole go woke type thing recently, like the whole you're beautiful at any size and stuff like that.
Right.
And gotten rid of like the angels. That was too, you're not allowed to do that. That's just not okay. So they've basically taken out all the sexiness and just hired more plain Jane people to sell their lingerie, and it turns out that that's a bad idea because their sales
doesn't
are
work. Yeah, I mean, like there's this whole like modern kind of thinking where it's not just okay. So people are people. Everybody has their own struggles, right? And so, like, I don't think we should necessarily shame people, but good health is a good thing, right? Being
100%.
physically fit is a good thing. And so all these companies, it sounds like Victoria's Secret has done the same, is they want to put Lizzo on a billboard and be like, look at this is beautiful, love it, it. And it's like, no, like that's not, people just from an instinctual genetic standpoint can tell in their very fiber of being that that's not true. They're like, listen, I don't hate somebody because of their body type or whatever.
Oh no, that's just silly. Yeah.
But if you look like you're going to have a heart attack if you stand up,
you probably
we instinctually know that's not a good role model. That's not something to be like, this is beautiful, this is the best way to be. People who are physically fit are lame, you know what I mean? That's like the modern kind of take on it. It's like the it's just like this trying to be different, trying to be unique. Inclusive, you know what I mean? Which I think there's a role to, obviously we don't want to bully people, right? But we also don't want to promote values. We don't want to promote being unhealthy. And so.
Well, and here's the thing: like, how long has the saying "sex sells" been a thing? Because ever since I was I've heard it. Like, I've known that phrase since the beginning. So how do we know this? And yet there are these marketing companies and these billion-dollar corporations that are like, man, let's just throw that out the window and try something new. It's like, come on, guys.
Right. This is literally a lingerie company that we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, as somebody that has a more like modest a take of like women should be more modest or whatever. But if you're married and you want to spice things up, that's one thing. But it's like, how can you as a lingerie company not get this? Like, oh, come on. Like,
you think that they'd be the ones that would totally get it?
That would understand, right?
Yeah,
and I mean, they did for a while, right? I mean, they were like the biggest, lingerie company, like I said, back in the day when malls existed, right? There was a Victoria's Secret in every mall that I could awkwardly walk by.
And I honestly couldn't name, I don't know another lingerie company. I mean, I don't know many, but, and then I wanted to touch base on another company that is dealing with the repercussions of its actions here with Bud Light. I'm sure you're way more familiar with this subject than any of the previous ones.
Yeah. I know that, what was it, in April that they did their whole Dylan Mulvaney thing, which for those
April
who
1st, are you kidding me? It actually happened on April Fool's Day?
No, that's hilarious. Maybe the whole thing was a joke.
Right? Yeah.
Seriously though, like for those who aren't aware, they did this marketing thing with this transgender person named Dylan Mulvaney, and it backfired financially on them to a huge degree to where people are now selling their Bud Light mini fridges on Facebook Marketplace and saying, "Does anybody want this gay mini fridge. And so it's it's kind of, as a cultural issue, it's one that you can get some laughs and some entertainment on, but it's a great example of the go woke or get woke, go broke kind of.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, the part of this that makes me really sad is what it's doing to their distributors and the people that sell the beer.
Yeah.
Because that's their livelihood, and it just got completely screwed with, and it's affecting the workers that are down the line and not the people who actually made these stupid decisions.
Yeah. Well, I think that, convenience in today's modern society, right? Convenience is one of like the main things that we look for. We want to just be able to go right down the street, right? That's why people shop at Walmart, even though they know that Walmart doesn't really back their values. They don't want to go to 7 different stores. They want to just do what's convenient, right? So that's why you see people buy products from companies that they know don't really agree with their values. And so I have this Forbes article pulled up here. I wanted to talk about as far as like the beer goes. Maybe some of you guys might remember back in 2016, Yuengling was in hot water because they openly, the owner Dick Yuengling openly endorsed Trump. He gave Eric Trump a tour of their brewery in Pottsville. Is it Pottsville or Pottstown?
One of those PA towns.
Pottsville, yeah, PA company. I think they are the oldest brewery in the United States, if I'm not wrong, but they're one of the oldest breweries, if not the oldest. And it's funny, they were supposedly supposed to get this big backlash. It didn't happen, right? You saw news articles about it, you heard about it on the news, right? But guess what? The people who bought their beer didn't care. In fact,
this is the exact opposite. Because everybody was saying that they weren't going to lose money.
Right, exactly.
And I just want to pull up the chart here. I think... Sorry, I don't have it.
That's the difference between what you see on TV and what actually happens. And it's so frequently that the mainstream media does not have their finger on the beat of the American people, and this is an excellent example. Yeah. They tried to say, oh, Yuengling's going to go under, nobody's going to buy their beer for supporting Trump. It didn't happen, and if anything, they got more popular. And then everybody was saying how great and wonderful it was for Bud Light to get Dylan Mulvaney and how they should do this kind of marketing more. And what's happening now? They're throwing money at distributors, saying, please don't.
Because that's kind of what I wanted to touch on with this chart. So they're down 65 to 52. That's 20%. So they're down 20% right now. But here's what's coming up, like you were just touching upon. Retailers here are going to go back through their past year's sales and see how to regulate shelf space coming up here soon. So with this huge slump in sales that the Bush families have, the Anheuser-Busch company is having here, they're going to lose a lot of shelf space. So this is just, a boulder rolling downhill now at this point. Because once they lose the shelf space, now people are going to see the crap even less. So there's going to be even less sales. Now they're going to just continuously lose shelf. It's just going to get eaten alive by these other companies. And pretty soon here, they're going to find out what people were saying in the beginning when they said get woke, go broke. And everyone was like, nah, not happening. Well, here it is. Just wait probably another... say 6 months. We'll come back and take a look at it. I'm telling you now, it's gonna be ugly.
Yeah. And this is something again where the content matters and the actual product matters. I don't really drink beer at all anymore, but I can tell you when I did drink beer, I would much rather drink a Yuengling than a Bud Light, right? Because why? Because Bud Light tasted like dirty water and Yuengling tastes like a lager.
Yeah, and I literally don't drink beer, so I couldn't even compare the two, to be honest. But this is just something. Was another example that I wanted to kind of tie everything together with. That people aren't kidding. If you If you don't understand your customer and you go woke, there's a good chance.
Yeah. And I think one thing that plays a part in this too is you will not see there's a large swath of Americans, like the blue collar, the country boy, the roughneck, the people that are working 72 hours a week. Those people aren't on social media all day long. Those people aren't writing comments all day long. But the people on the left are. They're the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. So you'll see these marketing campaigns that will be completely tailored to a tiny fraction of the population. And it's all about what the other part of the population will put up with. And you can see from the Bud Light example, from some of the other examples that we covered here, there's only so much that people will put up with, and they might not cry about it online, right? They might not make a bunch of nasty comments like the left will, like the tiny fraction of people who might have actually gotten upset at Yingling for endorsing Trump. But eventually they're going to stop giving you your money if you keep on shoving your agenda down their throats.
Yep. You know? And I think a funny kind of tangent to that is the game Hogwarts Legacy was the newest game that came out for PS4, PS5, the newest and last generation of consoles. And the left tried to boycott that because of the J.K. Rowling stuff, and it was an absolute banger of a game, and it sold, like, the sales numbers were off the chart. It was probably one of the best. I think it was the best Harry Potter game we've ever gotten. So it's just really funny that, like, their boycotts don't work, but like you said, they're so loud, they're the squeaky wheel, and yet they say our boycotts won't work, and yet, I mean, it seems that, you know, Bud here, Target found out, Disney's finding out. It's like even these really big companies that have been around my entire adult life and have been even longer than that, like foundational companies in this country, have given leadership to positions to diversity hires. And they go on to do more diversity hires and this and that, and and we end up here. So I just can't wait to see how this plays out. I think people are waking up to it, and I think these companies, I mean, it hasn't even been that long since they've kicked it into high gear, and it's getting ugly pretty quick, man.
Right, and the worse it gets, the more you're going to see companies like Daily Wire popping up that are like, hey, you know what, we're just going to make good products, we're going to make good content and good products, and we're either going to openly share your values, the American people, the majority, the silent majority, right? Or we're just going to make entertainment without any kind of agenda at all, which really, I think, at the end of the day is what people want from their entertainment anyway.
Yep. Well, thanks for letting me talk about a little bit of the culture war here today. I hope I kind of tied everything pretty well together, and that you
this was a fun episode. Yeah, this was a good one. I got to kind of ride shotgun a little bit, but thank you everybody for checking out this episode. Again, like and subscribe on YouTube. It's NoSpoon on YouTube, N0SP00N. Check us out on YouTube. You can check out my Substack page, daleupright.substack.com. There's a tab there for the No Spoon podcast. And if you can, check me out on TikTok. Help me get to 10,000 followers so that I can use OBS to live stream instead of taking selfies with my phone.